I got three stats that'll blow your mind, but not in a good way.
In the world full of podcasts, he's the undisputed heavyweight champion of hot takes, an Auburn sports homer, master of the boog, and message board legend. Get your buttons buttoned and your hats flattened because the Top Button Podcast is about to kick off. And you don't want to miss your courtside seat. Now, here's your host, Charlie Five.
Yes, sir. We're back. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Rush, a.k.a. Charlie Five, and we are ready to get after it. I got three stats, mostly that revolve around the offense that'll blow your mind in the wrong way. It's even worse than it's even worse than I imagined. We're going to talk about that, how it's even possible, and why Auburn? Like, how is this the first time this has really shown its head? We'll talk about that in just a second. But before we do that, let's give a quick shout out to rowback.com. Use coupon code BARN20 to take 20% off your order. Polos, hoodies, pullovers, doesn't matter. They got it. And they got some awesome stuff. They even have Auburn licensed apparel. So check it out. Show them some love. It's rowback.com. I hate to do this on a Monday, but I saw these stats yesterday, and I just had to talk about them. Last night, the live, we had a pretty specific conversation we were going for, so I saved them. I saved them for this morning so I could get your Monday off to some rage. So Auburn's offense has just been bad for 3 years. Last year, at times it resembled what could be. The turnover bug got us a few times, and then we bogged down at times as well. But it was explosive, and you're like, okay, if you can just limit the turnovers, maybe you got something here. And then you just have a whole new set of problems. Every single year, it seems like there's a whole new set of problems. But I'm going to breed this, and this is going to blow. If this doesn't blow your mind, maybe you've seen it already, but I want to talk about it. So at the end of games, shout out to Jacob Waters for doing this research. This is incredible. At the end of games in conference, Oklahoma, Texas, Georgia, and Missouri, Auburn has had 10 opportunities at the end of a game or overtime, doesn't matter, with a chance to tie or take the lead. Okay? 10 opportunities, which essentially means you had the ball in your hands 10 times to go win the game, or with a chance to go win the game in conference, in these 4 conference losses. That's how close they were. You had the ball 4 times or 10 times in those 4 games. One of those you went down and scored, and that was Oklahoma. And unfortunately, you couldn't stop them, but you got the ball back. Okay. So the other 9, this is insane. Okay. The other 9, you've had 35 plays for 24 yards, averaging 0.69 yards per play and 0 points scored. You had 4 of those drives go negative yards, one of which was in overtime, and it cost you a field goal. Against Oklahoma, not only did you lose 8 yards, but you also had a safety to basically end the game. Texas A&M, the last drive ended, I believe, in a sack or something like that, or negative 4 yards. No. That was the you got 3 opportunities against Texas A&M. You got the ball 3 times with a chance to win the game against Texas A&M, and you couldn't do it. And then you got it 4 times against Missouri, 2 of it counting in overtime, and you couldn't do it. Only 1 time against Georgia there at the end of the game, and I think they ended up scoring after that or something like that. Most teams thrive in those situations. Most teams want the ball. Most quarterbacks want the ball right there at the end with a chance to go win the game. And it's remarkable. It's remarkable how bad it is, but it's also remarkable how many opportunities you've gotten that you've just wasted, that you've just blown. That's incredible. That many opportunities to go try to win conference games, and you really couldn't get any of them. I mean, I guess you can count the one in Oklahoma, but then obviously, which was a great drive, by the way. But then you got it back and you just completely melted. That is something that is deeper than players on the field, in my opinion. That's something way deeper than just the personnel. That's way deeper than the offensive line. That's way deeper than the quarterback. That's way deeper than all of that. It's just really, really bad. Another stat that I've seen that I was going to share is this is from Matthew Wallace, AU. Auburn's defense has held Texas A&M, Georgia, and Missouri to season low point totals. Not average, the lowest amount of points they've scored all year, and you've lost all three of those games. So think about that. Think about when if you ever want to bang on your defense, or you ever want to complain, or you want to be funny and say third and Durkin and all that good stuff. The defense has held Texas A&M, Georgia, and Missouri to season low point totals, and you all lost all three of those games. And then finally, I haven't all the way fact checked this, but I believe it's correct. Every SEC team has scored over 20 points in an SEC game, except for Auburn. That's crazy. That's just crazy. Every SEC team, even I believe Kentucky, has scored over 20 points in a conference game, except for Auburn. Yeah, they scored 23. Kentucky scored 23 on Ole Miss. That is painful. Now, Auburn's probably played the four toughest defenses in the conference, but still, that's just not good enough. I don't know. I don't understand how this is possible. We'll talk about it in just a second. We'll be back right after this. I don't understand how those statistics can even be possible. When you go player by player, it's mind-boggling how this could even happen. Now, even with quarterback play that is a little bit sketchy, okay? And maybe more than a little bit sketchy. It really is incredible how this is even remotely possible. There is too much talent on this team. Way too much talent on this team. I know people bang on the offensive line sometimes, and some of it's deserved. But they're still too good. They're still too good for this type of offensive output. Hopefully Connor Lew's okay. What a dude. He just walked off the field with a knee injury. Some are fearing it could be season ending. We'll see. I don't want to talk about rumors. But you got Connor Lew. You brought in the number one offensive tackle. You've got a bunch of dudes that have a bunch of starts. And at times they look really, really good. And then at times they don't know how to pick up like a simple twist or a simple stunt. Elementary school stuff, and people just run free. How does that happen? Wide receivers. My gracious, man. We just salivated over these guys for a whole offseason. And for the most part, they've done when they've been given opportunities, they make it happen. The opportunities are just so limited. I know everybody's going to talk about Cam Coleman's drop, and it was bad, but then he made another incredible catch later on in the game to make up for it. I think we ended up missing the field goal. Eric Singleton Jr. Malcolm Simmons can't do anything but run a jet sweep. Perry Thompson had a big game, but like you got all these guys, all this talent, and you can't throw for 200 yards a game, man. You can't even throw for 200 yards. You did end up throwing for 200 yards in this particular game, but on average, it's not even close, especially in conference. Running backs, Jeremiah Cobb has exploded and turned into a feature SEC back, in my opinion. He had a great game. Finally got fed, got 19 carries and I think well over 100 yards, almost 6 yards a carry. And then you have Jackson, who, he's a 5-star guy. I know he's limited, but he does have some abilities that you could, that you could do. You can obviously put some drives together with. There's some things that he does well. And then there's some fatal flaws that he has that you just have to steer away from. But I mean, my gracious, it really does feel like if you gave that roster to several other offensive coaches, you'd be able to have much better results. I feel like that. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe the roster's trash, but I don't think that's the case. How is this happening? What has happened? Why does this have to happen at Auburn? And when I say why, this that I'm talking about is the fact that every stop that Hugh Freeze has made has had instant turnaround in offense. And I'm not talking about just turnaround and your average. We're talking about turnaround and then you become one of the more explosive offenses in the conference that you're in. I mean, Ole Miss, people that don't like Hugh Freeze will call out the overall record at Ole Miss, which is dishonest at best. Because when he took over that job, Ole Miss had won one conference game the prior 2 years. They were 4-8 and 2-10. And in the very first year, he came in and they went to a bowl game and Bo Wallace threw for almost 3,000 yards. And then incrementally, they got better. 8-5, 9-4, 10-3. And the 10-3, if you remember, that's when you're playing Arkansas, and Arkansas does it was like the fourth down play where the tight end catches the ball and then he throws it over the back of his head and they do like the crazy pitch thing. And then the running back gets the first down and somehow they lose that game, like on that play. Like had it beat, you're going to the SEC championship. And then, obviously you move into Chad Kelly. Now, let's just say, okay, that was 10 years ago. 2015 was 10 years ago. Maybe the offense has, gotten worse or whatever since then, or people have adjusted. Well, then he goes to Liberty. And once again, you're averaging well over 30 points a game. A team that was not even a Division I college football team, and he brought them into being a Division I team and was knocking off Power 5 teams. And then you come to Auburn, and it is a disaster from day one. How does that happen? What happened between 2020 freaking 2 in 2023. What happened there? It boggles the mind. I cannot figure out how it's possible that that it's this bad in year 3 with this roster when you've had success. I skipped over Arkansas State, who was a losing program, and he came in and won 10 games in year 1 and lit up the scoreboard. Everywhere he's been, that offense has been the least of anybody's concern. You remember that 2014 Ole Miss game? Boy, they just freaking ripped up and down the field, and they win that game if Chris Frost doesn't break Laquan Treadwell's leg going into the end zone. You lose that game because that was a touchdown. That was a touchdown that probably, if I'm not mistaken, that was towards the end of the game, and it would have been really hard for Auburn. I don't think there was much time left. What the heck is going on at Auburn? How did it come to this? I've gone through so many scenarios in my head as to what could possibly be the reason. I would assume, because it's a lot of the coaches are the same, the setup has been similar, where I have some guys that I trust that help me put the game plan together, and then I kind of execute it on game days and while I'm running the whole team, and it works out great. We've obviously done really, really well. What about the setup now doesn't seem to work? It's our defenses. Maybe it is a thing where SEC defenses have sort of figured out, I guess, maybe not how to stop it, but manipulate it. I still think there's an element to that. I think Zach was on to something a couple of years ago where it's not so much typically an offense dictates what the defense is going to do. In other words, like if we're running the ball really well, the defense is going to have to change what they're doing to stop the run. If we're throwing the ball really well, the defense is going to have to change what they do to stop the pass. But if this is a offense to where the play changes based off of the look that you're given, I don't even know, because I feel like that's probably pretty common. But if the defense can, in other words, if the defense can give you a look to force you by your rules to call a specific play, it's like the defense is dictating what you're going to do. And that's maybe sometimes how we get out of feeding the running back, because the defense is dictating a look that's sort of calling for us to pass the ball. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is it's historically bad, and it makes no sense whatsoever. It makes no sense whatsoever, because there's nothing you can point back to and say, there's the red flag, particularly on offense. Not particularly. When I'm talking about offense, there's nothing you can point back to and say, oh man, we should have saw this coming. Like, this is, I'm at a loss. Like, I honestly, I sat down by myself after that game and just silence. And I couldn't come up with anything to say. I couldn't come up with anything to really describe what we've seen. It's mind-blowing, and I don't get it. Somebody enlighten me. If you got an answer in the comments, please enlighten me. I'd love to hear it. Makes no sense. It's incredibly bad, and it makes no sense. So I don't even know. I don't know where you go from here. I don't know. Obviously, everybody's calling for his job, and I get it. And it's hard to imagine how he could turn this thing around and save it. The Arkansas matchup, I'm sure we'll talk about all week. But guys, I'm sorry to kick your week off with depression, but it's just hard to find a positive right now, if I'm just being completely honest. So hang in there with me, and we're going to talk through it. I really appreciate you guys for listening. Thanks for joining in on the live last night and the live on Saturday, the live stream. It was a blast. And we're going to keep doing it. So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be back again soon. It's another episode of the Top Button Podcast. Stay buttoned.
Thanks for listening and drive home safely.